Okay, today we're going to talk about something that's super easy, the subjunctive in Spanish, el subjuntivo. Vamos a hablar del subjuntivo porque es muy fácil y todo el mundo lo entiende muy bien, incluso los nativos. De hecho, los nativos no entienden, uh, no puedo decir que, bueno, yo no sé qué entienden los nativos. Pero lo que yo entiendo es que muchas veces hablamos un idioma sin entender la gramática, incluso en inglés, ¿no? Entonces, cuando estoy hablando de los nativos, yo puedo estar hablando de personas como yo también. Yo soy un nativo hablante del inglés. Eso no quiere decir que yo entiendo todas las reglas del inglés, varias, porque estudié mucho el español y ahora entiendo la gramática en español y muchas de las mismas reglas existen también en inglés. Y también para que sepan, es muy fácil aprender otro idioma si entiendes ciertos conceptos de la gramática. Entonces vamos a empezar. Let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and get started here before I talk myself into a corner. All right, the subjunctive. Let's talk about the subjunctive. When do we use the subjunctive in English? En inglés usamos el subjuntivo para qué cosa? Well, for example, if you say, I want that. Now, we don't normally use this structure. Like if you have, I want that, and that as in a conjunction followed by another clause. I want that, another subject, do a verb. Okay. I want that another subject do a verb. And that is the structure of the subjunctive in English. For example, I could say, I want that Jose study Spanish. Yo quiero que Jose estudie español. In English, we normally skip the subjunctive and we go straight to the two verb construct. I want Jose to study Spanish. I want Jose to study Spanish. Yo quiero que Jose estudie español. In Spanish, we can't use the two verb structure for that because it's a new subject with a new verb. And therefore, you have to use the subjunctive. Now, when you have the subjunctive in Spanish, you have to know the endings. So let's put the endings here. So we have these fancy verb endings. Of course, we have to know the format. It's the same format that we use every time, but I'm just going to put it on the board. By now, you guys probably know yo, to, el, ella, etc., right? But that's the format that we have to use for these verb endings. And so I have these regular present tense and actually they're not verb tenses because the subjunctive is a mood. They call it the subjunctive mood. But either way, you have the present subjunctive, and then you also have past subjunctive, which, by the way, gets used for the same reason, but it's in the past. And so it's also pretty easy once you learn the endings. That said, basically what you do is you change the letter. Kind of like in the command form, if it's an AR verb and you're commanding, or if it's like a negative command, right? The letter simply changes. Or if you're commanding in the usted form, if it's an AR verb, it goes to an E. If it's an ER or an IR verb, it goes to an A. And so we've already seen this in other areas. We're just going to continue that same pattern in the subjunctive. If it's an AR verb, it goes to an E. If it's an ER or an IR verb, it goes to an A. With respect to the subject doing it, right? And so if it's the to form, for example, don't forget the S. You still have to put the S there. Or if it's the nosotros form, you still have to put the MOS, but it's the letter, the vowel, right? The A goes to an E, or the E and the I, it goes to an A. So, for example, if it's hablar, you say, instead of saying tú hablas, it'd be tú hables. So, but why do we use it? So why do we use the subjunctive? So let's go ahead and take a look at the subjunctive and why we use it. So we use the subjunctive for 6 reasons to be exact. No, and actually I'm kind of being facetious. There's more than 6 reasons to use the subjunctive. It depends on how you categorize it. I tend to categorize it this way. You use it for emotion, imposition of will, judgment, things that are hypothetical or contrary to reality, and things that haven't happened yet. This is sometimes called the cuando subjunctive. And then also ojalá, hopefully, or you know, I hope, or something like that. So let's do some examples. Emotion. The first clause, it doesn't even necessarily have to be the first clause, but basically the subjunctive is used when you have 2 clauses. One clause with a subject and a verb, and then another clause with a subject and a verb. The conjunction connecting the 2 clauses together in Spanish tends to be the word que. Que. All right. So if it's emotion, you can say like, I am happy that. The word que, a lot of times you learn means what, right? What. But actually the word que is used very often in Spanish as a conjunction whose equivalent meaning in English would be that. And so que can mean what or that, depending on how it's used. But if it's que as in a question, it'll always have an accent mark there. And so, but even if you can't remember that, you'll never get it mixed up just based off the context. You'll know if it's a question or not. So, estoy feliz, that means I am happy. Estoy feliz. Well, now it's looking like emotion, right? We're doing an example for the first one. Estoy feliz que, that's a conjunction. And so now we're looking for another subject and another verb. So we say, estoy feliz que ustedes, for example, could be a subject. Estoy feliz que ustedes, and then if it's hablar, if the verb is hablar, estoy feliz que ustedes hablar español. We can't leave it hablar. We have to do something with this. That's the infinitive. It has to be subjunctive, and ustedes is doing it. So what is the ending that we have to use? So let's go over here. It's an AR verb. Ustedes is doing it. That's the lower right-hand section, right? Like if I put the lines, I forgot to put the lines, but if you have the lines, right, everything follows this format. So ustedes is the lower right-hand section. So over here, it's an AR verb. Ustedes is the lower right-hand section. So it's going to be EN. AR verb goes to E, and it's ustedes, EN. Estoy feliz que ustedes hablen español. It would be incorrect to say, estoy feliz que ustedes hablan español. That would be incorrect. It's subjunctive in Spanish. And therefore, the vowel, the A, has to turn into an E. Estoy feliz que ustedes hablen español. Estoy feliz que ustedes hablen español. All right. Now, imposition of will. What's a good example of imposition of will? In English, for example, if I say, I want that you study Spanish, or I want that Mary study Spanish. That would be like a subjunctive construction, but in Spanish, it's more common to say it that way. In English, it's not very common. In English, you might use the 2-verb construction where you say, I want Mary to study Spanish, right? But in Spanish, we're going to say it with the word que, separating it into 2 clauses, requiring the subjunctive. So, yo quiero que María estudiar español. Yo quiero que María estudiar español. We can't leave it estudiar. That is an unconjugated verb in the infinitive form. Infinitive, unconjugated, that's 2 different ways to say the same thing. If it's unconjugated, it means it ends in an AR, an ER, or an IR. Or if it's in the infinitive, it means that it's AR, ER, IR ending, right? And so it means the same thing. But we have yo quiero que María. We can't leave it in the infinitive form. We have to conjugate this verb. How do we conjugate it? Well, we know it's an AR verb, and we know Maria is doing it. And so it's ella, that's the lower left-hand side. It's an AR verb, lower left-hand side, y. Estudie. Queremos que María estudie español. Queremos que María estudie español. Yo quiero que María estudie español. All right. Judgment. Judgment. So if you have judgment, judgment is like if it's your opinion. There's a couple of verbs that are exempt from judgment, and maybe I'll talk about those. But for example, you might say, yo dudo que, right? I doubt that. Or nosotros dudamos que. It doesn't have to be yo. It can be, any subject doubting something. So let's say nosotros, for example. Dudamos que, that means we doubt, period. That could be a subject, or a clause all by itself, right? It is a clause all by itself. It could be a sentence. I could put a period there, but no. It's yo dudo que, or nosotros dudamos que. The nosotros part is implied because of its conjugation. Dudar means to doubt, but it's in the nosotros form. Dudamos. Dudamos que, and now all I need is another subject and a verb. Dudamos que, and then let's say, I don't know, tú. Dudamos que tú, and then leer muchos libros. We doubt that you read a lot of books. We doubt that you read a lot of books. Leer is in the infinitive form. We have to change it. We have to conjugate this verb. Obviously, it's going to be subjunctive because that's what we're working on. What kind of verb is it? Is it an AR verb or is it an ER or an IR verb? Well, it's an ER verb, so we're going to be looking at these endings. To is over here on the left-hand side of the middle, so we go to this on the left-hand side of the middle. AS. Dudamos que tú leas. Dudamos que tú leas muchos libros. Dudamos que leas muchos libros. We doubt that you read a lot of books. All right, so that would be our judgment, right? Also things that are hypothetical. For example, if I say, I want to listen to a song that I like. Well, that would be a hypothetical song that fits the criteria of it having to please me. Because in Spanish, if I like something, really, it pleases me. Remember, those are intransitive statements in Spanish. I like this because in Spanish, it pleases me. Me gusta, right? Me gusta esta agua porque es azul. Agua es azul. Se ve azul porque agua es azul. Por eso cuando ves el mar, ¿qué color es? Azul. Muchas personas me dicen, no, el agua no es azul. No, claro que es azul. Míralo. Ahí está. Azul. Pero dudamos que tú sepas de los colores del agua, right? Okay. So hypothetically though, I want to drink some water that is filtered. I want to drink water that has been filtered. Yo quiero tomar agua que haya sido filtrada, right? It has to be subjunctive because it could be any water as long as it fits the criteria. So hypothetically speaking, I don't care what kind of water it is as long as it's been filtered, right? Yo quiero, and you can skip the subjunctive. You say, yo quiero tomar agua filtrada. I want to drink filtered water. And you can say it that way too, but typically we use the subjunctive. We say, yo, I want to drink water that has been filtered. Let's go ahead and do that one. Yo quiero tomar agua que. Now what do we do? The verb is haber. Haber, followed by a past participle. Ser. Ser is the past. It is the other verb. What is the past participle of ser? Well, that's a different lesson, but it's one that we've talked about before, so I'll go ahead and put it in here. So haber plus ser, that is a construction with haber, all right? But it works the same way. We're still going to use the same past participle as always. And the past participle of ser is sido, right? Sido. Well, I'll just leave it like this for now, though. Yo quiero tomar agua que haber ser filtrada. Filtrada. I want to drink water that has been filtered. So, haber is the verb that needs to be conjugated to the subjunctive. Haber is an ER verb. But guess what? This is an irregular verb. See, I love throwing these curveballs in here. So it'll be haya. Haya. And so how do you guys know that it'll be haya? Well, the only reason you'll know is through by studying these irregular verbs. It'll be haya. Whoops. Haya. Haya sido. Sido. Haya sido. Que haya sido filtrada. Just like that. But let's do another example that's less complicated. Okay, I want to drink water that is no. I want to let's do the other one. I want to listen to a song that I like. Okay, yo quiero escuchar una canción que me gustar. So the song pleases me. It pleases. Gustar is an AR verb. I please would be yo gusto. You please in the to form would be tu gustas. And then it pleases would be gusta because it would just be gusta. It's the lower left hand. If this were regular endings, an AR would simply remain A. Because it's subjunctive, it switches to an E, right? And so by now we know that it would be gusta. Una canción me gusta. Una canción me gusta. A song pleases me. But this is una canción que me guste. Una canción que me guste. The reason why is because it's a hypothetical song. It could be any song as long as it fits the criteria that it pleases me. Yo quiero escuchar una canción que me guste. All right. Now, things that haven't happened yet. A lot of times people call this the cuando subjunctive, right? Cuando subjunctive. So the cuando subjunctive is like if I say, we will talk when I get there. Or when I arrive is how you say get there. In Spanish, you use the verb llegar, which is an AR verb. And so you can say, we talk when I arrive. Hablamos, that means we talk. Haven't talked about the present, or I mean the future tense. But if I wanted to use a future tense, I could say hablaremos, right? Hablaremos. But I can get away with saying hablamos. And that's what's so cool about the present tense in Spanish. It's very versatile. You can use the present tense to talk about the future. Hablamos cuando yo, and then it'll be llegar. Llegar means to arrive. So we will speak when I arrive. When I arrive. And so this AR has to be an E. And since you can't have an E following a G without the G making an H sound, you have to put a silent U in there to preserve the solid sound of the G. Because remember, a G followed by an E or an I always makes the equivalent sound of an H. Huh in English, right? Huh. Like jengibre. Go back and watch my video on the alphabet and the nuances about the letter sounds and all that. But and the cargar-zar verbs, right? Llegue, yo llegué. Anyway, hablamos cuando yo llegue. And you can get rid of the subject pronoun because that's what we often do in Spanish. All right. Ojalá. Ojalá. Ojalá means hopefully. Hopefully. Notice that ojalá is kind of a passive voice in Spanish. Like if I could say, hopefully it's true. Well, who is doing hopefully? Nobody's doing hopefully. It's just an expression, hopefully. Hopefully you're right. Hopefully everything works out, right? So hopefully, ojalá. But it's kind of like an imposition of will, and that's why it's subjunctive. And so you say, ojalá, and guess what? It's always followed by the word que, or just about always. Actually, I shouldn't say always, because there are a lot of structures where it's optional to put it in there. But for the purposes of this video, I just want to put the word que, but just know that you could technically eliminate it, and colloquially that'd be correct in a lot of different places. So ojalá que, and I like to keep the word que just for the structure of it all, where you have like one clause and then the next clause is going to be subjunctive, and it's going to be subjunctive, but you could technically leave it out. So we say like ojalá que hopefully you speak Spanish, right? Ojalá que hablar español. Now, if this is the to form, to, ojalá que hables, because hablar is hablas, ojalá que hablas español, but it's subjunctive because it's followed by ojalá que hables, ojalá que hables español. So we could get rid of that. Ojalá que hables español. You don't have to say ojalá que tú hables. It sounds redundant because the fact that it ends in an es implies that it's the to form. See what I mean? Technically, you could get rid of the word que. So I'll get rid of it. Ojalá hables español. And that's also correct in a lot of different places. All right. Any questions about the subjunctive form? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Hasta unos cuantos de la mitad de unos cuantos. Y también, si ustedes quieren aprender más acerca del subjuntivo, pueden poner las preguntas en los comentarios, o si quieren aprender cualquier otra cosa, está bien. Ustedes me pueden hacer la pregunta en los comentarios abajo, o me pueden llamar si saben mi número, aunque no tenga teléfono, ¿no? Muy bien. Chao.